Good evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories, and we'll be filling you in on them over the next half hour. But first, the headlines we're tracking right now. China virtually rejects the Prime Minister's proposal to clarify positions on line of actual control, calls for code of conduct deal to maintain peace at border. Around 20 army jawans killed in an ambush by unidentified militant group in Manipur a day after a shutdown over alleged killing of a woman by Assam rifles. More states put Nestlé's Maggi off the shelves as the centre promises action against those found responsible if the samples are found unsafe for consumption. JDU President Sharad Yadav says his party will tie up with the RJD and the Congress for Bihar polls a day after Lalu Prasad's aide meets Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. And Greece hopes to strike a deal before time runs out to repay the IMF loans, refuses to accept demands from its European creditors. Well, our top story this evening, China has virtually rejected Prime Minister Narendra Modi's proposal to clarify positions on the line of actual control. Beijing prefers an agreement with India on a code of conduct to maintain peace along the border. During his visit to China last month, Prime Minister Modi had pushed Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang to resolve the dispute without compromising the status quo.
China prefers a pact with India on a code of conduct to maintain peace along the border rather than clarification of line of actual control proposed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit last month. Outlining China's first public reaction to the proposal, Deputy Director General of Asian Affairs at the Foreign Ministry said attempts to clarify mutual positions on the LAC had encountered difficulties in the past. Speaking on the outcome of Modi's visit, Huang Shilian said that China will not entertain any issues that poses as a stumbling block to move forward. In the past, the two sides have held 18 rounds of special representative talks to resolve the issue. While China claims the border dispute is limited to around 2,000 kilometers, mostly in Arunachal Pradesh, India claims it is spread over 4,000 kilometers, especially in the Aksai Chin area. China also defended the $46 billion economic corridor through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, despite India's objections to it. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had raised the issue during his visit.
जब प्रधानमंत्री वहां गए, तब उन्होंने इस बात को बहुत दृढ़ता से कहा और इस मुद्दे को बहुत मजबूती से उठाया कि ये जो आपने चाइना पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर की बात की है और उसमें भी खासतौर पे पीओके में जाने की बात की है, ये हमें स्वीकार नहीं है। जहां तक साउथ चाइना सी की बात आप कर रहे हैं, साउथ चाइना सी में जो हमारी कमर्शियल एक्टिविटी है ऑयल ड्रिलिंग की, वो इंटरनेशनल लॉ से कंपैटिबल है।
China has also opposed to India's oil exploration in the South China Sea because it is a disputed area. Vietnam recently awarded oil exploration contracts to ONGC, which was opposed by Beijing. China claims sovereignty over almost all of the South China Sea and Vietnam. The Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei and Taiwan object to that. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And what does this really mean for Indo-China relations? We'll go across to Pramit Pal Chaudhary, Foreign Affairs Editor at the Hindustan Times, to help us understand, Pramit. First of all, how does this affect Indo-China relations? China, though, saying that with the code of conduct, we can move on to other issues, address those as well. But do you think this is a step down as far as from what India wanted from China?
Well, I think it's basically a status quo position. What China has enunciated is exactly what we've been doing for the past several decades. Basically that we have a code of management to ensure that our soldiers behave in a certain manner when they meet each other. And we try to negotiate or settle other problems, trade and so on, even while we do nothing about the border. But the actual settlement of the border, therefore, is now being postponed. Now, the point of this is that China had indicated earlier, Xi Jinping had signaled, that he was interested in the final settlement of the border. And he wanted to move forward. Modi had said, I have no problems with this. But then, unfortunately, China has gone and back and said that, no, we're not going to go that far. Now, the question for us, therefore, it doesn't matter that much. I mean, as you said, it's the status quo that we've been living with. But Modi had very clearly indicated that he wanted and he believed that she was going to be able, and she indicated he also wanted to do something much more than just do what we do right now at the border, which is essentially border management rather than attempt a border solution.
All right, but Pramit, is this also perhaps a side effect of India's relations with the United States and the fact that the South China Sea is emerging as a critical flashpoint and the US is trying to use India as a counterweight to China? So in terms of geopolitics, is that also at play over here?
I don't think the America relationship has much to do with this. We had signaled this obviously when Obama had come in January. China had not reacted and in fact has continued to send a signal at that point in January that it was interested in working forward. My hunch, and I don't claim to know exactly what's on China's mind, also I would add on South China Sea, we have been signaling now for almost the entire past 1.5 years, if not 2 years, that we don't approve of China's position on the South China Sea. Our terminology about freedom of navigation, our relationship with Vietnam, our support for the ASEAN position in the East Asia Summit on the South China Sea, all of these had signaled to China that while India was not going to get directly involved, we don't support it. So my guess would be that either there is something domestically happening in China with Xi Jinping that we don't know about, and therefore Xi doesn't feel he is strong enough to carry out a border solution. But I think the real most likely reason why he's done this is that Modi rejected Xi's number one, should we say, strategic plan, which is a so-called One Belt, One Road, also known sometimes as the maritime Silk Routes and the two land Silk Routes that Xi had proposed, including this giant $46 billion project through Pakistan and Central Asia. And Modi had said in China that we will not be part of this. India will build its own infrastructure within Asia, its own trade infrastructure, and occasionally if that infrastructure converges with China, then they're happy to work together. But otherwise, India would not endorse the One Belt, One Road. Right. My guess would be that rejection is what led Xi to conclude that he would not therefore prepared to go ahead with the border settlement, at least quite as vigorously as he had proposed earlier.
All right, so the border might not be getting resolved anytime soon, but as far as the Sino-Indian relations are concerned, we've seen a sort of impetus in that with Xi Jinping's visit earlier and now Prime Minister Modi going to Beijing as well. So, but do you see a thaw emerging, or do you see both sides continuing to work together, and perhaps we can see new barriers being broken, especially on the trade and economy front?
Yes, I think the trade and economic front will continue. Modi has signaled that he will lower the barriers that we had placed against Chinese investment, and he will be open to more Indo-Chinese trade. So on that front, I don't think there will be any slowing down. We are prepared. We have already announced about $22 billion worth of projects were announced when Modi went there. If even 1/4 of those go through, that will still represent an almost 500% increase in Chinese investment in India. And if China comes through with its promises, or what we have asked of them to open up services trade for India, then we will see a fair amount of Indian investments. On the trade and investment front, I think we will continue to see a lot forward movement. Hopefully, as that develops, we will see some sort of further interest in China on a border, relooking at the border. But if it doesn't happen, well, then the present status quo on the border will continue, and that's something India can probably live with.
All right, so both sides living with it. Let's see how long that status quo is maintained and whether trade and economy can really bridge all those divides. But thank you very much, Pramit Pal Chaudhary, for coming in and helping us understand the Sino-Indian relation in the context of this news event. All right, moving on now. At least 20 army personnel were killed while 12 others were injured in an ambush in Manipur's Chandel district this morning. The convoy of the 6th Dogra Regiment was attacked by an unidentified group of terrorists. They triggered a powerful improvised explosive device blast, and then when the convoy was on its way to Imphal, the State Home Secretary has said that RPGs were also used in the attack. The injured jawans were airlifted for treatment. No group has so far claimed responsibility for the attack. A reinforcement party of the security forces has been rushed to the spot for combing operations to nab the militants. The district saw a shutdown yesterday over the killing of a woman allegedly by the Assam Rifles. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar has condemned the attack and assured action against those responsible. He, along with Army Chief and the National Security Advisor, met with Home Minister Rajnath Singh to discuss the matter.
20 Indian soldiers, 20 Indian jawans have been killed in an ambush is a serious business. And it's even more serious when you consider the fact that in Jammu and Kashmir, almost every other day there are reports of encounters, and then there are incidents of Maoists killing our security forces in Chhattisgarh and other areas. So taken together, this is not a very healthy situation in terms of security for the country.
Now, Nestle India is maintaining a silence despite a raging controversy of the safety of one of its most popular brands, Maggi. After Kerala and Delhi, Uttarakhand and Gujarat became the latest states to ban the instant noodles brand. Other states might follow suit once they receive results of tests conducted on Maggi. Meanwhile, in what could be very good news for the consumer, other brands of snacks are also being sent for random safety checks.
Gujarat and Uttarakhand are the latest states to ban the sale of Maggi, signs of a deepening crisis for the noodles manufacturer Nestle India.
हमने और भी सैंपल लिए, लेकिन जैसे जैसे सैंपल की टेस्टिंग रिपोर्ट आएगी, किसी भी कंपनी का हो, किसी भी चीज का हो, वो हम बड़े पैमाने पर हमेशा करते हैं। इस प्रकार से अभी टेस्ट कर रहे हैं, तो आज जो टेस्ट रिपोर्ट आए हैं, वो सभी ईमेल के द्वारा भारत सरकार के डिपार्टमेंट को भी भेजेंगे।
On Thursday, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh also began inspection and sample collection of Maggi from markets across the states. But their target is not Maggi alone. Similar products will also undergo random testing.
Why isolate Nestle? Pick up the samples for other manufacturers also, so that you have a clarity on it. Because whether it comes from A company or B company, it's a food product and that is consumed. So here we are concerned about the safety of the food product, and they must draw samples from others as well.
13,000 कार्टून जो हैं वो मैगी के विभिन्न ब्रांडों के पड़े हुए हैं। हम इनको जब तक स्थिति क्लियर हो जाए, चूंकि पूरे प्रदेश भर में हमारी जांच चल रही है, 12-15 नमूने इकट्ठे हो गए और इकट्ठे किए जा रहे हैं, तो जब तक स्थिति क्लियर न हो जाए हम इनको उस सामान को सीज कर रहे हैं और इनको इंस्ट्रक्शन दे रहे हैं कि उसको सामान को स्थिति क्लियर होते तक हमारे अगले निर्देश तक बाजार में न विक्रय किया जाए।
Meanwhile, Consumer Affairs Minister Ramvilas Paswan has said action against the product and people endorsing it will be taken if samples are found unsafe for consumption.
हमने जो है और NCDCRC को भेज दिया है कि आप इस पर तत्काल क्या कहते हैं कि जांच करके कार्रवाई करने का काम करो। जो डिपार्टमेंट है उसका हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री का है और सारे के सारे रिलेटेड हैं स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से।
Noodles has 9 variants. If the problem is seen more in case of one variant, then you can confine your action to one variant. I have requested them that you should have your own plans and every month look at it, okay, this time we should take these samples, this time we should take this sample, this time we should take, so that as a part of the plan you keep on doing those and so.
Despite the raging controversy, Nestle India is maintaining a stoic silence on the issue. The company says it hasn't yet been asked to withdraw the product from the market. The company also maintains that it is convinced about the safety of Maggi and is working to resolve the matter with the central and state governments. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And on the politics of Bihar, amid speculation over the Janata Parivar merger ahead of the polls there, JDU President Sharad Yadav said his party will contest in alliance with the RJD and the Congress. The remarks come a day after a meeting between the RJD Chief Lalu Prasad Yadav's aide and Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. However, Sharad Yadav chose not to comment on the tussle over who should be this Chief Minister candidate.
कोई गलतफहमी में न रहे, गलतफहमी न पाले कि गठबंधन हम लोग नहीं चाहते या विलय नहीं चाहते हैं। हम सब लोगों में और नीतीश कुमार में और उनके पार्टी के नेताओं में हम लोग में कोई मतभेद नहीं है।
3 days after the RJD chief gave hints that all is well between his party and the JDU, Sharad Yadav has come out and said that the two parties will contest the forthcoming Bihar Assembly polls as allies.
देश में वोट का बंटवारा हुआ, बिहार में जो हुआ इसलिए ये मर्जर हमने घोषित किया है। यदि उसमें कोई दिक्कत आएगी तो गठबंधन होना चाहिए, इसी में प्रयास करेंगे।
On Wednesday, RJD Chief's AD met Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar amid a war of words over who should be the chief ministerial candidate for the alliance. Sharad Yadav claims the speculations over the alliance were untrue, but he refused to comment on whether there was any understanding between the two parties on deciding a name for the top job before the polls. Meanwhile, the BJP claims the expected merger will not affect its poll prospects.
मिलने का नाटक करते हैं, फिर टूटते हैं, फिर मिलते हैं। क्या करेंगे इनको मालूम है, मुझे उसके बारे में टिप्पणी नहीं करना है। लेकिन मैंने कहा है कि मिलें, टूटें, विलय करें, गठबंधन करें, कोई फर्क बिहार की जनता पर इसका नहीं पड़ने वाला है। इनका जाना तय है, बिहार में एनडीए की सरकार बनना भी तय है।
The Janata Parivar was formed in order to come up as a strong alternative to the BJP in Bihar. According to the JDU president, a final decision on the alliance will be made soon. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now we'll slip into a very quick break, but coming up on the other side, the government announces the third round of coal block auctions from the 11th of August. More on that on the other side.
The great big Maggi row engulfs celebrity endorsers. How do endorsements work? And how liable are the brand's star showcasers? Watch the big picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. And now the employees of 5 associated banks of the State Bank of India went on a strike on Thursday. The banks are demanding that they be delinked from their parent entity and not be merged with it.
Bank employees of associated banks of SBI under the banner of State Sector Bank Employees Association went on a nationwide strike on Thursday. State Bank of Bikaner and Jaipur, State Bank of Travancore, State Bank of Mysore, State Bank of Hyderabad and State Bank of Patiala are resisting future attempts to merge the State Bank of India. The disgruntled employees accused SBI management of hampering the performance of associate banks due to its domineering approach.
स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया की एसोसिएट बैंकों के साथ मनमानी वाला रवैया है, उसको हम प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं। जो स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया में बेनिफिट स्टाफ को दिए जाते हैं वो ऑटोमेटिकली पहले एसोसिएट बैंकों में भी दिए जाते थे। अब स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का रवैया कुछ चेंज होता जा रहा है।
The protesting employees are also demanding extension of compassionate appointment scheme as per government guidelines, recruitment of sub-staff and part-time employees, increase in quantum of staff housing loan among others.
They want to implement, rather force on us one scheme that is called career progression scheme, in which they want to increase our working hours, whereas the officer has to work for 5 hours, but our staff will have to work for 10 to 6, 8 hours continuously, which is against the labor law, against the labor reforms. And कि हमारी जो working है that is better than State Bank of India, but these people are ये जो लोग हैं सिर्फ we are working and वो जो सारे benefits हैं वो अपने staff को देते हैं, अपना फायदा उठाते हैं.
They may appear to be very specific economic demands, but they are all genuine demands, reasonable demands. And that's what they have been agitating, and I think the finance minister should take note of the ongoing agitation.
The agitating employees have asserted that SBI had already merged State Bank of Saurashtra in 2008 and State Bank of Indore in 2010, and now it wants to acquire the rest. If the demands are not paid heed to, then All India Bank Employees Association will call for a nationwide strike on June 24th in support of various demands of the State Sector Bank Employees Association. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The time now for some more news and updates from across the nation and nationwide. The benchmark BSE Sensex ended Thursday's session marginally lower by 24 points at 26,813. The Nifty settled 3 points higher at 8,138. Earlier in the day, the Sensex fell as much as 285 points and the Nifty fell below its crucial psychological level of 8,100 on the back of broad-based selling pressure. The government will conduct the third round of coal auctions in August, starting from the 11th to the 17th. The auction of 10 coal mines will be conducted on the lines of the previous two rounds, except the fact that multiple bids of a single entity will be treated as one this time. The notice for the auction will be issued on the 8th of June. The BJP today demanded a probe on arms dealer Abhishek Verma's claim that Congress leader Jagdish Taitla had received a clean chit in a 1984 anti-6 riot case after he met former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Verma also claimed that Taitla had tried to influence a witness in the riots case. Tourists visiting the Taj Mahal will now be able to enjoy 30 minutes of free Wi-Fi usage starting June 16th. The free Wi-Fi project is part of the central government's Digital India initiative. The initiative was mulled over in February after BSNL made a presentation before the Archaeological Survey of India. Fatehpur Sikri Fort is the next in the line to get the service. Now, President Pranab Mukherjee is in Belarus on a two-day visit to strengthen bilateral ties. Voicing serious concerns over terrorism arising from India's neighborhood, President Mukherjee said it is a security threat for all countries in the region. He also invited Belarusian investors to India in a bid to increase bilateral trade to $1 billion by the year 2020.
President Pranab Mukherjee met the Prime Minister of Belarus, Andrei Kobyakov, in Minsk. The meeting comes at a time when the two countries are in the process of finalizing a joint roadmap to expanding cooperation in several sectors including industry, information technology, education and culture.
Our common interests in the field of science and technology, our complementarities in the fields of information technology and engineering, our collaboration in energy and pharmaceutical, as well as our close cooperation in defense, have linked our country in a long-standing, fruitful partnership for mutual benefit.
Voicing serious concern over terrorism and extremism in India's neighborhood, the President called upon other countries to stand united against this menace.
We appreciate Belarus's support for India's permanent membership of United Nations Security Council and membership of the nuclear supply group.
The President also asserted that it was an opportune moment for Belarus companies to invest in India.
We are hopeful that we can double our trade to a level of $1 billion by the year 2020. India's decision to grant market economy status to Belarus will also be a significant step to enhance our bilateral trade.
The President also said that both governments are keen to intensify cooperation in quality control, quarantine, certification of goods and standardization to facilitate trade. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, some other international news. Amidst a looming debt crisis, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has said that an agreement is in sight. His comments came after the ongoing talks in Brussels on Greece's debt crisis. However, Greece refused to bow down from demands from its European creditors. Greece has a €300 million IMF repayment that's due tomorrow.
Greece is one step closer to an amicable deal to resolve its debt crisis. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras announced that they would make payment to the IMF soon, avoiding a default.
I believe that in a few days, in the next days, we will be more close in an agreement.
Alexis Tsipras has drawn a plan of his own, calling on Eurozone partners to show some realism. However, with the time running out, the creditors have effectively come up with a take-it-or-leave-it offer. The primary budget surplus target, the amount by which tax revenues exceed public spending, has been a major sticking point for weeks.
The realistic proposals on the table are the proposals of the Greek government. We are very close in an agreement in the primary surpluses. That means that all the sides agreed to go further without the tough austerity measures of the past.
I think that this agreement is possible because we have made good progress, but I know that there is still a way to go in order to achieve it, and we have little time to do so because we are all aware first of the liquidity problems in Greece, and also because we are conscious that the present program ends by the 30th of June.
Greece has to pay 300 million euros to IMF by Friday. Greece's current bailout agreement with the IMF, European Central Bank and European Commission will run out at the end of June. A failure to reach a deal could trigger a Greek default and a potential exit from the Eurozone. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak will face a retrial over the killing of protesters during the 2011 uprising. An Egyptian appeals court ordered the final trial after accepting an appeal against an earlier court ruling that dropped the case against Mubarak. 87-year-old Mubarak, who ruled Egypt for 30 years, has been in prison since his arrest in 2011. He has since been the subject of multiple legal cases. In fact, Mubarak has been convicted of conspiracy to kill in June 2012, but a retrial was ordered the following year, with the charges being dropped later. The new trial will begin on the 5th of November. Now, with hopes of finding survivors fading, Chinese rescuers are cutting holes in the hull of the capsized cruise ship in the Yangtze River. 39 more bodies were pulled out from the wreck of the Eastern Star on Thursday. Out of the nearly 456 people that were on board, more than 370 people remain missing, more than 2.5 days after the ship went down. So far, 65 people have been confirmed dead, while only 14 were pulled out alive. The government has shifted its main work to care and service of families of the victims. Many of the relatives of the missing passengers staged a protest today near the sinking site. The Chinese government said the rescuers would take all possible measures to save those injured and promised a serious investigation into the tragedy. Well, time now to see some other international news and global buzz. More than 90 people have died in a fire at a petrol station in Ghana's capital, Accra. The fire started even as people in the city were trying to cope with 2 days of heavy rains. According to officials, the blast was caused by a fire that erupted in a nearby lorry terminal late in the night, which then spread to the gas station and other buildings. There are fears that death toll could rise as the search for bodies continues. Turkey's general election seems likely to push Tayyip Erdogan's dream of an all-powerful presidency further from his reach. Barred by the constitution from party politics as the head of the state, Erdogan has nonetheless campaigned across Turkey before the June 7th parliamentary vote. Hong Kong held its annual candlelight vigil to commemorate the anniversary of China's 1989 crackdown on pro-democracy protesters in Tiananmen Square. Security was also tightened at China's Tiananmen Square. More than 25 years ago, students and workers flooded into central Beijing to vent their anger against corruption, economic mismanagement, nepotism and poor career prospects for students. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.